Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about the difference between sales, marketing, business development. There's a lot of vague terms used today, and over the course of reading dozens and dozens of books on sales, marketing, business development, and business in general, as well as years of selling knives, years of selling HVACs and vacuum cleaners and books, and even what I'm doing now with Real Elite is it's on the ground hustling, making sales. And I've learned a lot about what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, and I've learned about the field of what is sales, the fundamental principles of sales and how it applies everywhere. So today we're going to talk about those three things that are often used interchangeably, and I think wrongly so. There's a big difference between marketing and sales, and although they can utilize each other and they need to be working together, we need to think of it in a holistic, conceptual way. So today, this is going to be one of my first attempts at kind of defining some of these things and understanding them. So my name is Kirk Double K Barbera, and stick around for your business book tip of the day. So for those of you who are, a solopreneur, a business owner, or just a salesperson, whether you're new in your career or older in your career, whatever it is that you're doing, if your goal in any way, shape, or form, or if you're in a major corporation and the goal of any company is to get this one thing, if you're in this business of getting this one thing, which is a transaction, you need to understand at least a little bit about the differences between marketing, business development, and sales. And we can even talk about branding at some point, which is something that I really enjoy, and I think that's one of the most important parts of all of this. Now, in a very baseline level, marketing, sales, business development are all geared toward getting a transaction. That's the whole point of all of them. That's the whole point of a business. I mean, sales transactions. I have a service. I'm a public speaker and I'm talking to buyer's agents who have, they are selecting speakers for a conference. Well, I want to, as a speaker, I need to figure out how to sell that person, get into their world, be credible, whether through storytelling with branding to position in your mind, positioning, if you can see that, whether creating a movement like tipping point, whether, spin selling, which isn't as bad as it sounds. Spin selling is just how you're asking questions to get them to see why you're the end result. I don't have it up here, creating a message, Gary Vaynerchuk's jab, 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 right hook, which is give, 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 then ask for something. There's all these different things, but the fundamental point is always, always, always to get a sale or transaction. There's a buyer's agent who's filling up 10 speakers for a major conference in New York City. I'm a speaker who's relevant to that field, and I want to go to that I want to speak at that conference, so I need to sell that person, get money, and then that's how I make my living. If I'm selling books, I need to build a product, I need to market it, I need to get platform, I need to go sell it. If I'm selling HVACs, I sold HVACs for a while. There's Sears Home Improvement. They have a mega marketing machine that sends out all this stuff, and people sign up. Yeah, my HVAC is a little bit damaged. Please help me. They send someone out like me. I go, and then we look at it and we say, okay, so this is what we think the life of it is. Here's how the size you're supposed to use. Blah blah. We give our very long sales pitch in this case, and sell hopefully a sizable HVAC unit. Same thing with the knives. Same thing with Real Elite. Like, we are a media company and we sell media production. So we go out. We say, hey, we can produce these videos for you. Here's what it could look like. Here's how to do it, and here, give us the money to transact with that. If you're selling houses, if you're selling real estate investments, if you're selling whatever it is, transactions, transactions, transactions. That's the fundamental point of all of this. And there are so many different ways to think about transactions. For instance, as a merchant, as a retailer, where they place food versus essential items like milk is not accidental. Okay, these are guys that have been around for hundreds of years. They know what they're doing. In fact, There is multi-billion-dollar industry of consulting companies that all they do is study the psychology and the precision of where exactly to place what kind of products where. Like, you all know about the last second items that you buy at the cash register, but look at the layout of a superstore. The next time or a grocery store, the next time you go into a grocery store, look at the layout. I think it'll be very interesting to you. You'll notice that you walk in, you'll see like produce and such, but most people buy milk almost every time they go to the store. So where is the milk? Is it right there? I mean, wouldn't that be the most logical place to put milk? Is if I'm going to get milk every time, put it right there so I can just grab it and be happy, right? But no, because they're in the sales business. Their goal is to get as much transactional purchases from each customer that walks through that door, per customer value is how they kind of think about this. Like, how much can they get from each customer? Which is fair. Like, they're providing a value, they want as much as possible. So they put, if you look at the store layout, they put, you enter here, they put the milk on the very far right-hand corner. Why? Because now you got to walk through the whole place and say, oh yeah, I need this. Oh yeah, I need toilet paper. Oh, I need this. That's not accidental. That is not accidental. They do that on purpose. That is a form of sales, and it's retailing in that case. Now, I say all this as to kind of help you understand that if you're in business, even if you're in a nonprofit, your goal, whether you're in marketing or business development or sales or retail, doesn't matter. Your goal is to make a transaction. That person to lift out their wallet, give you their credit card, charge them a fee, whatever that is. That seems basic, but it's easy to forget that type of thing when you're in high-level marketing and you're trying to tell a really cool, sexy story, and people start looking at it. And if you look at it from a business standpoint, you have to think, what the hell is this story going to do to actually drive sales? Like, is this great TV ad actually driving sales? I mean, it's a Jeep driving up a mountain. Wow. Is that driving sales for Jeeps? I mean, it's, Tiger Woods is wearing a Rolex or something. Is that really driving sales, or is it just something that's sexy? Like, it's hard to quantify a lot of that. We're not going to get into that too much. Marketing, sales, business development is a very basic part of it. So one of the things, look at sales. I used to work for a company called Cutco. We'd literally call friends and family and then, do a demonstration for about 45, 60 minutes for them. And what we would do then is ask for referrals, and then we'd call those referrals and do presentations for them. Now, that was on the ground level sales. I mean, we didn't canvas, which is just literally just knocking on doors randomly or, in some kind of zip code. What we did was used referrals as the way to qualify our prospects or the leads that we were trying to reach and pitch and sell. Nevertheless, we did actually go and, get the referral and knock on the door and, do the appointment. So we would go one-on-one, I'd pitch, and I'd try to sell $1,000 set of knives. And I did it for 4 years. I did a pretty good job of it because Cutco had developed such an amazing branding and marketing story. Now, this is where it gets a little confusing, so let's break it down a little bit. The branding story is Cutco as a knife that will be guaranteed to you forever. It was passed on from generation to generation, and it's the highest quality knives in the world. Now, from a marketing standpoint, if you break that down, marketing was lead generation. Now, how did we at Cutco do lead generation? That means, how did we start with 5 leads and get 25 leads? And there's a lot of ways to do that, but the way we did it was through referrals, as we would give, for instance, a very basic lead generation technique with Cutco was at the end of the presentation, whether the customer purchased or not, preferably if they purchased, it was even better, obviously, there's a more qualified referrals. We would say, hey, you know what? We will give you this $25 vegetable peeler, and we had, again, very good quality stuff. We'll give this to you if you just write down 5 names and numbers and call at least 2 of them for us right now, for me right now, and just let them know that you did this presentation, and we had a whole little spiel to get those referrals. That was actually the marketing component that led to more sales pitches. So there's another way that you could do this. There's a guy named Russell Brunson who does click funnels and things of that nature, where you basically set up these funnels that people click on, and then they get a free product, and they go down they go here and they get a free video, they get another free product here, and they're clicking, and they're following around, getting cool stuff that's hopefully actually valuable. And then at the end of it, you get their email, and then you can follow up and try to actually make a transactional sale. Sell your educational product, sell your new book that the big book you're trying to sell, or whatever it is. That is a ClickFunnels marketing technique, is you're giving stuff away to build that stuff, to build equity with that person to then sell them transactionally. Jab, 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 Right Hook is a great book I really recommend. I highly recommend checking out Gary Vaynerchuk, because he is really understanding the social media dynamics and how behavior psychologically of people and how they buy today is changing a little bit. Nothing in sales will ever change fundamentally. That's the whole point of having a fundamental principle, is that it's unchanging, immutable. Where is it? I just moved it over here. The 22 immutable laws of marketing. Those don't change, but there are certain tactics that can change. There's tactics that can change, and one of the tactics that changes is how you use social media. One of the things he does is he creates this whole branding persona of Gary V that sticks in people's mind as the story of Gary V, which he's told over and over and over and over again. He gives a lot of value to people. He gives away stuff that a lot of people in his position charge, or even at lower positions than him, charge tens of thousands of dollars for this very specific information. And I'm being serious. Real elite media is being built on his systems he's giving away pretty much for free. I mean, we're using some of the stuff in his books, but for the most part, so many of his the verbiage he uses, the framework he's given, if you listen to his content, we are building our business based on that. That's a form of marketing. He has developed me and my business partner Marco into ideal leads for anything that he wants to sell in the future. He sells K-Swiss. I'm going to buy some of his K-Swiss shoes because they're cool. It's part of his brand. Is cool. Shirts. And then at some point, I guarantee you, I'm going to go do he does have like an in-depth, you can go to his store or his Vayner Media in New York City, where he has, I think 400 of his 700 employees are there. And you can actually, go do a deep dive for 3 days with him and several people there. And that's a significant cost, but it's actually not that bad compared to other people. But it's valuable because you get to have that hands-on experience in that way. And he has developed the lead by giving hundreds and hundreds of videos that give actual value, that really show how this business thing works. So that's marketing. Marketing is fundamentally, I think, and again, I'm just kind of figuring out a little bit of like how to hierarchically structure these ideas. Marketing is essentially about telling a story that generates a lead. Branding is more broad level it's high level storytelling that's about getting in the person's mind as like a brand. Like you literally view branding a cow, like you're branding the mind of the people you want to reach, so that they think, Gary V, Southwest Airlines, Kit Kat bars, like those types of, I use the same jingle for all of them. But the point is that's branding. It's like, think of a brand. Marketing is you're actually bringing the product to the market in a way that generates a lead. Sales is the handshake. Picture a handshake of closing the deal. Sales is the most transactional. Like a salesperson is the one who's actually developing the lead that a marketing person got. And then business development often is used interchangeably with sales. And it is very similar, but I think one way you can differentiate business development is that business development is focused more on, as it's used in the industry, conferences, networking, and things of that nature. So for instance, especially if you're going for higher level sales, you can go to a conference, you can even give a speech, or you can go to a conference and network and shake hands and kind of just build the relationship. You may even pass it on eventually to a salesperson who's going to go give the pitch, knock on the door, make the transaction. Now, where it gets confusing is the business developer might do the whole thing and make the sale, right? So now this is where the art comes in, and there's options for any business. How you do this is up to your business. But the fundamental thing to understand is that marketing is about lead generation primarily. Does other things. You can do a ClickFunnels all the way to sale, but marketing, lead gen. That means that there's some guy who likes golf and you sell golf clubs. You provide him all this marketing material and he eventually signs up or gives you his info or his credit card or whatever it is, and then you go in for the sale. Sales transaction is, whether it's a phone call, it could be an email, it could be a text message. We actually have a lot of success with text messages. It could be an in-house presentation. It's going to depend on your product and your service, but that is about, think the handshake, the transaction. Business development is about developing with businesses. You don't usually hear business development in what's called business to consumer, B2C. It's usually business to business. So this is more primarily because what you're doing is you're going and networking with people and you're finding connections you can make, and either handing it over to your sales team or doing it yourself and making the sale. Everyone's going to be different, and that is important, how you develop it, and a lot of that's going to be based on your DNA. Like one of the I'll just end with this on this long tirade into these concepts, which I don't have clear definitions for yet. If you have ideas, please let me know. Part of what I'm trying to do is parse out what are the specific, differentiating factors as they are actually used in real life today. So one of the things that, I've basically come to learn over this is that it's based on your own abilities and skill sets. So it's amazing when I say something like, I've been in sales. People automatically assume that I'm some kind of magician, that I could do anything. That if they, wanted to talk to me about some kind of sales problem they're having, that I can just instantaneously tell them or do something or talk on the phone with somebody and voila, they're going to be a millionaire or something like that. And they don't put it in those terms, but there is that kind of feeling. And, this is usually for people who aren't running a business, of course, or they're new at it. And that's not true. I, for instance, have always relied up to a more recent point when I'm doing Real Elite. In the past, I've relied heavily on the amazing, amazing branding and marketing of the companies I've worked for and the sales training programs they've had. So that's a big deal. I'll just tell this story. When I worked at Cutco, I was 18 years old. I didn't know anything. My first appointment was with my grandmother, no joke. And you go through 3 days of training where they teach you about the knives. I barely ever cooked. I was spoiled that way. My parents usually cooked for me. I was very spoiled in that way. So I rarely ever used a knife. I rarely ever did. Obviously I've used the knife, but definitely not high quality knives like this. I didn't know anything about high carbon surgical stainless steel. I didn't know, how to paint a picture for selling. I didn't know about the competition. I didn't know anything. So they put you through 3 days of 6 hours training sessions that basically ends with giving you a view of how to pitch this product to a particular client. Now, they've been doing this selling technique for almost 30 years at that point. They started in the early 80s. And so they knew exactly who they wanted to go. This is called a qualified lead. And the qualified lead is what they called a MAC, a married between the ages of 30 and 60, owns a house. M, married, A, 30 and 60, C, casa. So if they were in that, you knew that they had kids, that they probably had a full-time career, and that they had a steady type of income and probably disposable income, which means that they can afford a more high-quality set of knives. Now, the first appointment I didn't listen to any of that. I showed the product to my grandmother, who wasn't married, who was over the age of 60. She was, I think, in her 70s at that time, well, late 70s. And she did own a house, though. But she was my grandmother, so they let it slide. I relied heavily on their marketing pitch. Another thing that marketing does is usually develops the pitch that the salespeople are going to give. Again, this is dependent on your organization. But we had this blue book, and we would hold it, and they had a manual that gave you all the verbiage. My first 4, 5, 6 appointments, I literally had this thing over my face, this binder over my face, and I would show each page. I would literally read, and I was so nervous. I would just point, and there was even this thing that said like finger tap here. I wrote that down from the training, and I would go like that. I was literally so nervous, and I relied so heavily on the framework that they developed, a brilliant framework of using the psychology that they know of sales and how to make a transaction occur, that I just read through it and I made sales. Now, yes, it was my grandmother, but even as I moved on, I was able to take off the training wheels a little bit, and the structure was still there. And one fascinating thing I realized as I developed, as a salesperson, is I went into selling HVACs just a couple of years ago, and I noticed that the pitch they gave, they used a computer rather than a blue book binder, but they were selling $10,000, $15,000 HVAC units, or I was, and they had windows, and and it's Sears, which is a huge company even today, and their pitch was almost verbatim identical from a structure standpoint to Cutco. And I just realized that sales is sales is sales. And there are some differences. For instance, if you're selling a product under $10,000, there's a lot of differences than selling a product over $10,000. Like that's usually a pretty important cutoff to understand in sales. So it's a much different process of selling a $50 pair of shoes versus a $50,000 or $100,000 software program. So I just wanted to give you some idea of the sales, marketing, business development structure. Sales, transactions, marketing, lead gen. Biz dev is networking or event development or event sales of some sort, where you put on some kind of event. At some point, maybe I'll do some kind of hierarchy. I don't know the hierarchy. If you have ideas, let me know. I would imagine branding is almost at the top. Marketing subsumes everything. So marketing is essentially the taking of a product and bringing it to market. So it's the whole process. So, those are just my thoughts on all of those. I hope some of them maybe give you a little bit of insight and help in developing your own techniques. So, there's so much already done. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. Go look up stuff. Hit me up if you need some question, if you have some questions on how to develop your pitch to resonate with your audience. If you don't know your audience, then I can't really help you. That would be the first step, is who the heck are you trying to sell to? That's the MAC, Married 3060 CASA. Who are your Macs? With Real Elite, we're not selling to Macs. We're selling to, a certain type of small business owner. And we have a very specific niche that we're honing in on every day as we learn more. So, I hope that was helpful to you. That was your business book tip of the day. My name is Kirk Double K Barbera. And remember, reading is not a passive activity. It's a contact sport. So go out there and make some contact with some books.